whole world's changing. Even I see that now. Our time is pretty much past. They don't want folk like us no more. This very rules will be damned with you. No more outlaws. No more killers. Now it's us being hunted. Oh, they ain't stopping. We went and made our choices a long time ago, so I guess we gotta pay for our sins.
Oh, Arthur, what a sad world we live in.
Well, I ain't sad, Mary Beth. I'm just realistic about what's coming. But I keep killing animals needlessly. I don't know.
Arthur. Oh, Arthur. You're the only one of these fools knows just how lost he is.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
I can't remember the last time I played a game that actually explains the dichotomy between the forces of good and evil so well. Red Dead Redemption 2, much like Call of Duty, needs no introduction. Before I even describe how the game plays and what it does well versus what it doesn't do well, I can say without hesitation that this is the best Wild West game I have ever played, and it easily rivals some of the great Western movies of our time in its story, its authenticity, and its replay value. And I'm talking about the classic all-time greats, your Tombstones, your Unforgivens, your Good, the Bad, and the Uglies, your True Grits. This is a game that tells a story, not just about a man, but about an entire time period. A period of time that helped forge the United States of America into what it is today, despite how short it was. So, how much did I enjoy the game? I think you can already tell, but let's dive into it a little deeper. I'm Unreal, and this is a review from an average gamer. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a story focusing on the main character, Arthur Morgan, a member of a band of outlaws trying to take their share of the American dream by force, whether it involves robbing, cheating, trickery, or killing. As Arthur himself describes it, possibly the last of their kind. They are being hunted, running not just from the law, but from the changing times themselves. And with the benefit of hindsight, it turns out Arthur was more or less correct. The Wild West time period in the US of A was indeed coming to a close as modern infrastructure was migrating west at a steady pace, the law's reach was extending further while its grip was tightening, and the old ways of illicit money-making were going by the wayside, evidenced by the last recorded stagecoach robbery taking place in Nevada in December of 1916. This game is made by Rockstar, and as you might expect, it plays an awful lot like Grand Theft Auto V. It is, after all, based on the same game engine, though this is most certainly not a reskinned GTA 5 with horses instead of cars. This is a snapshot of a time period with a significant change in weapon mechanics, interactions with NPCs, and your ultimate goals. You are not trying to take over an entire city. You're trying to make your own way, as your character and his companions see it, and as such, it's a refreshing change from the Grand Theft Auto series of games. Some noticeable similarities do of course exist. It is a third-person shooter, it does take place on a large open-world map with sandbox-style gameplay outside of the main story, leaving you with a lot of extra stuff to do, and a fairly content-rich online mode with its own leveling system and side story. A lot of time, money, and effort went into the making of this game, and it shows. Perhaps one of the most notable properties of this game, outside of the single-player campaign, is the phenomenal visuals. Similar to how Ubisoft has been doing a great job with graphics on a consistent basis across multiple games in a row now, Rockstar has impressed me game after game, from Max Payne to LA Noire to Grand Theft Auto V, and now they've raised the bar even further here with Red Dead Redemption 2. Character models aren't all that different from the ones you'd find in GTA 5, albeit some textures have been improved and there does seem to be more facial detail. Objects occasionally clip into each other, like hair and clothing, and you'll find some obvious graphical oddities that probably should have been cleaned up in hindsight. But as an overall package, the visuals are stunning. You're going to be constantly impressed as you simply look in front of your character each time a new day starts, a new night begins, or a new area is discovered. Snow-capped mountains beg for exploration as you catch a glimpse of them off in the distance. Rays of sunlight break through the trees, inviting you to ride your way through on horseback in spite of what dangers may be lurking in the woods ahead. Muddy swamps with dense vegetation could easily get somebody lost if they had little experience in video games and if there was no minimap available. And blazing red sunsets always seem to be portrait-worthy as you climb on your horse to head back to camp for the night after your full day of gunning down your enemies and pocketing as much cash as you can. The beauty of the sound in this game lies in the little things, and I'm not talking about things like animals or the ambient noises of the great outdoors. I'm talking about things like your party members playing O Susanna on the banjo by the campfire as you head for your tent, or a couple of guys singing a time period appropriate tune while rowing your boat across a lake after 15 minutes of fishing. And I'm even talking about the way your spurs jingle as you walk, the creaks in the floorboards underneath you, and the rickety doors imploding open after you run into them at full speed. And one of the bigger details, like the emotion-rich dialogue between the characters during cutscenes, shouldn't be ignored. I'm very impressed there overall as well. The story is very well written and keeps you wanting to play for just one more hour. And then one more hour after that, just one more. And before you know it, you'll check the clock and the sun is going to rise in a few hours. And beyond the main storyline, the open-world random encounter events are worth exploring once in a while to break up the monotony of riding on horseback between place to place. Okay, now that I spent a whole bunch of time praising the hell out of this game, let me get down to the nitty-gritty of the game and tell you about a few things that could probably use some improvement either via a patch or by going back to the drawing board for the next game, whenever that may be. The gameplay mechanics are very similar to Grand Theft Auto V, as I said earlier, and as a result of that, even though how you move through the world differs and shooting mechanics differ due to a lot of the guns being single action, the fact of the matter is that if you spent a lot of time in GTA V, you've spent a lot of time in this game. The missions usually boil down to one of just a handful of different types. Mission 1, go to point A, collect item B, bring it back to point C. Mission 2, escort person A to point B, defend against person C along the way. Mission 3, go to point A, kill person B, escape the law before going to point C. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's because pretty much every mission in Grand Theft Auto V follows those formulas too. Now, you can dress these up with a storyline, and they often do, but you're going to get a lot of repetition. This is magnified even more during your online adventures since your character does not speak, and there's a little less effort, dare I say, with dressing these missions up with the storytelling. You are to repeat these missions over and over again until your online character gets enough money or gold bars to afford that next gun, or that next holster, or that next horse, or whatever. There are side activities like hunting, fishing, and even some professions you can get into as a side hustle outside of your traditional train robberies or bank holdups such as bounty hunting or moonshine running. These are fun, but again, suffer from a certain amount of repetition and grinding because at the end of the day, it's a job. The user interface is somewhat similar to GTA 5's, but the controls are kind of hard to make sense of on PC when you first start. And even after I put in some time, I found that they're not always intuitive even after remapping certain keys, or even all that reliable for that matter. I cannot tell you how many times I've clearly pressed tab to draw a weapon when under attack, only for my character to do absolutely nothing except stand there and get shot. It's infuriating, and it immediately wipes away all of your Wild West badass persona and turns you into a Dr. Disrespect-like rage quitter, only for you to start the game up again later on anyway. Horse riding mechanics are better than its rival Wild West games from past games like Call of Juarez or Gun, but that's not saying much. The horse movement is initially mapped to your mouse motions, which should probably be turned off immediately. Even after doing that, though, horses are still pretty dumb, even if your key inputs are precise, and your character or your horse seem to get caught on random objects in the world that they probably shouldn't. And once again, going back to the controls being unreliable, I've also gotten shot to Swiss cheese when trying to mount my horse or call it to come to my aid despite mashing the buttons in frustration while running away from my pursuers. Graphical glitches aren't an hourly occurrence, but the ones that do pop up are pretty obvious, and I'm not sure how they made it past QA testing, and a year head start with the PC version coming out long past the Xbox and PS4 version. They had time to get rid of handguns that float next to your character's hands during cutscenes, levitating medicine bottles from a horse-drawn carriage that already rode away a minute ago during a cutscene, or horses that spawn with their rear half buried in the muddy streets of the local town before popping back up to where they should be. On the note of graphics, I do have a gripe despite the pretty visuals, and that's the performance aspect. This game seems to suffer from GTA 4 syndrome in that the developers suggest that most modern graphics cards aren't, quote, supposed to, quote, run the game with ultra details, and that it's meant for future hardware. I currently run the game with high settings, and when comparing visuals, there's very little difference in detail between high and ultra. And the game is built on what is frankly an aging engine, so I don't know if I buy that excuse. To this day, Grand Theft Auto 4 can still bring even the most powerful computers to their knees. The performance was unpredictable, even after years of patching and hardware improvements, and I'm expecting the same issue here with Red Dead Redemption 2, but I guess time will tell. I am interested in buying a Turing generation graphics card from Nvidia when they're finally released, so if that can max out the game with ease, great. But even if it does, I still don't see why this game can't be maxed out with hardware that was released during or after the conception of this version of the game engine. I've also gone through what may have been a good cutscene with absolutely no dialogue sound, and my headset didn't glitch out, and I know that because all of the background noise like the whistling of the wind and the birds chirping were perfectly listenable. The characters just kept moving their mouths but no sounds came out. All of a sudden, I was left regretting not having captions turned on. Matchmaking in the online portion is a pain in the ass, as it is for me in most games, but the biggest problem in this case isn't the ping or the worries about cheating, but rather simply not having enough people to complete a mission. Rather than scale down the number of enemy NPCs or the difficulty of a particular challenge if you need to do something solo, Rockstar makes you sit there, looking at the desert while waiting for other people to join you for certain missions. Why? Why do I have to waste my time doing that? Red Dead Online is popular, but it's not that popular. Much like GTA Online heist setup lobbies, I could be sitting there forever because people don't want to help you with anything that doesn't involve a huge payoff, and any oddballs that may join you usually have absolutely no idea what they're doing and are as delicate as a flower, just aching to get blown away with an NPC that has a well-aimed pistol shot, resulting in a mission fail and an annoyed groan as you have to start waiting for a new player all over again after the first guy left in frustration. With those faults out of the way though, the game overall was a very enjoyable experience. The campaign is very long, though a lot of that arguably has to do with the large distances you have to cover between objectives and the grinding you have to do to make money, for you and your camp. Though there are certain workarounds like riding the train or buying gold when in the online mode, though those things get expensive pretty quickly. If they treat Red Dead Online with the way they have GTA Online, I can see the replay value being fantastic due to a virtually unlimited endgame if they keep churning out meaningful updates every 6 months to a year. Moonshine running is the last one of note that I can remember, and adding an entire new profession is pretty neat, but as time marches forward, players are going to need more. So I'm cautious, but optimistic nonetheless. This game definitely deserves a thumbs up. Rockstar definitely hit another home run here, and I'm looking forward to not only future updates to this game, but to a sequel. Will we see one, considering that this game does indeed take place towards the end of the Wild West time period, though? I'm not sure. I'm hoping that if nothing else, we can either see a prequel game, or maybe a parallel story involving different people during the same era. There are plenty of Wild West legends out there. Wyatt Earp, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Jesse James, Billy the Kid, Killin' Jim Miller, Doc Holliday, Johnny Ringo, and the possibilities could be virtually endless for a good writer. That's all for today, folks. Please make sure to like my video and subscribe to my channel to help me put out new content. Until next time, I'm Unreal, and you've just watched a review from an average gamer.
It ain't gonna be easy. You're gonna have to draw on me to get me out. You might have found me, but you won't beat me, bounty hunter.